ourselves as well. So welcome to another Monday meetup for Monday, May the 3rd. Today we have Rebecca Ataman with us, our Connected Kins Facebook group co-admin. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello.
And I'm going to ask Rebecca to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about what she does, and then I'll say a couple things, and then we'll introduce everyone else who hops in.
So thanks for that, Angela.
No problem.
So yes, my name is Rebecca. I haven't unfortunately been able to come to many of the meetups recently, especially because I actually live in Montreal right now, and the curfew is at 8 p.m. or it just changed, and so I really
forgot
need to be outside before 8 p.m. So I was not on my computer before then.
Is it like super eerie when you look out the window, like there's no one in Montreal?
Its curfew just changed today to 9:30, which is why I was like, yes, Angela, I can come to this because I will go out after.
Okay.
I need to get out of my house, walk around, and the evening's the only good time. So anyway, I'm in Montreal because I am currently a PhD student at McGill. So I am registered in Ontario as a kinesiologist, but I've been here for the past 2 and a bit years now. I do my research in knowledge translation, which is essentially the idea of how do you get all this research evidence that is being generated, and when it's ready for practice and actually ready to be put to use in the real world, how do we get it to the real world? How do we actually make that leap? So my research is all in that, of how do we get stuff that's actually ready to be used by clinicians to clinicians faster and more effectively.
That's what we love.
Yeah. So that's what my research is in. My background, other than being a kinesiologist, is I did some teaching at the University of Waterloo. I taught in the Department of Kinesiology there before I started doing my PhD. So that's kind of my background. I have some clinical background, but actually more educational. Yeah.
Neat. I don't have any educational background except for what I teach, I suppose. Nothing formal. So all my background is clinical. Rebecca is actually going to be joining First Line Education as a consultant to help us with knowledge translation. So she's going to teach me and teach our group about how to take the research and put it into our coursework. And that's something that's really, really important to us because we want to make sure that anything that we teach kinesiologists does have a very, very solid base in clinical best practices. So that's something that we're going to start working on very soon. So that's pretty exciting. So our company, First Line Education, we're specializing in teaching kinesiologists and helping to attract and keep them in the profession of kinesiology by upskilling, particularly their clinical practice skills and their therapeutic exercise skills, which tends to be the majority of kinesiologists. And it's just a real passionate area of mine. I love trying to figure out the human body. And so I want to be able to assess anybody that walks around and be able to figure out how to balance their movement a little bit better and make them feel a little better in their bodies. So I'll welcome Emma. Thank you for coming out. Maybe you could say a few words about your background.
Sure, thank you for having me. I graduated in 2018 from Guelph Humber, and I decided this summer to write the exam, but not soon enough because I have to wait until whenever it's writing again, because they postponed it in April. So I'm waiting until who knows when to write it, but then I'll be registered.
Awesome, that's great. And we're very happy to have you both. Catherine and Emma are part of Malik the Kin's RKin exam prep course. So we've had a chance to work with both of them. And we're pretty happy to say that no one, let me say that the other way around, everyone who's gone through the course has passed. So we're really pleased about that so far. Catherine, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Tell us a bit about your background. You really hit the ground running very recently.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2020 with a BSc Kin from Western. Then I also decided to write the exam. Luckily, I wrote it soon enough that I actually got to write it in September. So that was good. Once I became registered, I got a job at a physio clinic here in Sarnia where I live as a registered kin and receptionist. So I kind of do a bit of both. I did try to become GLAD certified so I could run the GLAD program, except you need 2 years of clinical experience to do that. So I mostly just help out with that.
That's good then.
Yeah. And I teach some virtual exercise classes to older adults through Connected Chain and Markham with John Baptiste. So
Excellent, excellent. So John is definitely someone to know in our field. So that was really great that you could connect with him, because he's got a kind heart and he's very, very good at what he does. So he would be an excellent mentor for the first few years for you. Yeah, that's great.
yeah, he's been great.
Good. That's good. That's good. Oh, you muted yourself.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So I think, Catherine, that administrative role that you have is also very powerful, because I think to understand the background behind how a clinic runs is invaluable. It gives you solid business experience to understand what it is to welcome a client, a new client, or even a returning client to the clinic, make sure that they're comfortable, make sure that they know exactly where they're headed that particular day, with what clinician and in what direction. And so you would be the first and last person that they have contact with in and out of the center, which is a big role. It's really an excellent marketing role for the clinic, and you are the face of their experience, really. So it's a good spot to be.
Big, huge learning curve at the beginning. I knew nothing about like insurance or anything like that going in, but it's been, I know will help me a lot down the line, like really knowing that. So
yeah, for sure. So are most of the people coming into the clinic, are they insurance clients, either WSIB or auto?
No, we actually don't do any of that. It's mostly like the more, I guess, private insurance, like Sun Life, Green Shield, Manulife, like all that type of thing. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, good. And Emma, tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like.
Well, I'm currently working in a kitchen as a kitchen manager. So if that's what you want to know.
Yes. Yeah, excellent. And what do you do in that role?
So we prepare food. It's only pickup right now since we're in Toronto, and we're inside of a mall. So it's people have to come inside the mall to pick up. But yeah, we're just preparing the ingredients. They're seasonal, local ingredients for the bowls, and then we have everything on the line, and then we assemble the bowls as an order. So if someone orders a certain salad, then we'll make that to their preferences, and then it's ready to go. It's quick service, it's fast casual, so it's under 5 minutes per order.
Wow, so you're hustling.
Yeah, they're pretty standard and they're pretty easy, like a little scoop of cucumbers, scoop of tomatoes, not too difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's really valuable, because I was just speaking to a new client today who wants some help with COVID-related weight loss. And so KINS, we discovered through our research for an upcoming nutrition course that we're going to offer, are the only group that has nutritional counseling in its core competencies. And I don't know if you knew that about kinesiology. So the knowledge that you gain about food prep and about food combinations and recommendations are going to be really valuable for you, because you can use them with all of your clients to come. It's a great idea. I just have to sit down and do a menu for one of my clients who has psoriatic arthritis. So I have to come up with an anti-inflammatory protocol for him. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be fun.
Angela, have you by any chance done a similar investigation of the competencies for different professionals with regards to like exercise prescription, just like generally?
I haven't, but we will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we will do that.
I don't know. At one point, a few it must have been at least a few months ago now. I read and probably posted an article that I'd found about, so it was Canadian, I think, and they did a survey of I think medical residents or maybe medical students, something like that. And they basically asked them, like, what is your like attitude towards, comfort level with, confidence with, like actual ability, what do you actually do with regards to exercise prescription? And it was like, as you would suspect, they're like, I feel like everyone should do it. And then as you like come across, and like it became less and less of like less comfort, less confidence, less actually doing it, right? Like, and that I was kind of annoyed with the conclusions of the authors, who were probably also doctors. And they're like, we should include this, because they were like, we should include this as part of, you know, like medical school training or residency training or whatever it was, or continuing education. And I was like, well, no, you shouldn't. Like, I was so annoyed. But I mean, their recommendation would make sense if part of their core competencies is exercise prescription, but I kind of don't think it probably is. I think it's probably
So that's really interesting. Yeah, we'll look into that. We looked into nutrition for physicians, and
no, they don't
it's
have it.
not, right?
No.
It's not, and we thought that was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
So they are not expected to have a competency in nutrition prescription. So KINs are it, and we studied all of them. So that's pretty unique. And I think when we look for our unique selling proposition, as every business person should, that would be something really huge that I think KINs could hang their hats on for prevention and injury rehab, is getting people to consume a diet which lowers inflammation rates, systemic inflammation. So I use it a lot with my clients, and it was really something missing for me in my practice. So we'll be bringing that to everyone to say, here are all the basics that you are well within your scope of practice, but also your core competencies to be able to talk to your clients about. And so that would really, really help with autoimmune conditions, with weight loss, with pain levels, even helping people just feel better in their bodies. That should be good. Now, this is kind of open.
Sorry, do naturopaths fall on that scale too? Because I know that they do have nutrition services.
They do, yes. So naturopaths are pretty amazing. I spent a lot of time with one. I used to rent space from a nutritionist here in Toronto to see clients, and got to know her scope of practice and her core competencies really well. There's nothing that she can't do that's different than a physician, with the exception of the prescription of pharmaceuticals. Everything else she can do. So that was really surprising for me. And her scope is a lot wider than a family physician. So she can prescribe exercise, and she's very good at it, rivaling physios and chiros quite well. Knows all the musculoskeletal tests, acupuncture, a lot of Eastern medicine, very, very supportive of, dry needling. She can do adjustments, just like a chiro can and a physio can. So yeah, they do have nutrition competencies, a lot of herbal medicine they're trained in, heavily trained in herbal medicine. So for us as a nutritionist, we have to take, we've got an introduction, but you'd have to take postgraduate training to really feel confident doing that. But they go deep into herbal medicine, which is really great. Yeah. Did I answer your question all right?
Tomato sandwich?
Big roundabout answer. So hey, Deanna, who's probably coming back from a run or a bike ride or something, and will be with us shortly. So open mic night. Any other questions about anything? There she is.
I wish.
You were, oh, really? Okay. So
Just eating.
Deanna and I were floor mates in university. We spent a ton of time running back and forth to each other's rooms, which was a lot of fun in what was it, first year, I guess. Yeah, we met Frosh Week. Yep.
Yeah.
And Deanna's direction for her career went differently from mine. So I really concentrated on clinical rehab and a bit of ergonomics, and she went a little bit of clinical rehab and a lot of ergonomics. So she's a great resource person for you for anything to do with occupational health and safety. So what we find, and what Deanna will tell you, is likely probably two things. One is, I think she probably found ergonomics more interesting, the job opportunities in terms of location, the kinds of clients she was working with, the kinds of employers she was working with, super interesting. And it paid a heck of a lot better than being a clinical kin unless you owned your own practice. So the challenge in those early years is gaining enough experience to actually start to hit the ground running, and it takes a number of years in order to do that. We were talking before we hit record. You need about 7 years to become really competent in your field, and that's that 10,000 hours that was spoken about by so many people. So it takes a little while, but everyone has to go through it. Engineer, accountant, construction worker, nurse, you name it. It takes time to learn your craft. So Deanna, what would you say would be favorite part of your career? What are some of the highlights as you wind down here? Oh, she'll be back.
Who knows? You know, it's funny. I don't know. I don't know what my favorite one was.
Oh,
Kind of all
really?
morphs into one. It was fun at the beginning doing ergonomics in automotive. Partly they paid and it was a good company to work for. And then up here, I like learning more. So learning all the clinical stuff slowly. I wish I'd learned it. You know, it's weird. Like when you learn like when you're first, I learned ergonomics right off the bat, and that was my goal, to learn it. I kind of fell into clinical and had to learn it on the side, taking extracurricular courses, or, you know, taking Angela's course. That's when I actually found her again, was taking her courses. So
yeah, that's right.
Just trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
deal with clinical kid stuff. And now it's really nice to have the combination of both, and the flex time to be able to offer both when it works. But you can, knowing the clinical, knowing chronic pain, knowing ergonomics, you can combine all three when you're working with someone either in the clinic or at a workplace, because you know what they're going through as far as rehab, but you're also knowing what they're going through with their workplace and trying to cope with any of the changes and return to work, and any kind of challenges they may have, both physically with the work, but also maybe mentally with the challenges of either not enjoying their job, or management that doesn't always listen to them, or, you know, claims management side of things. So it's good to have it's nice to have a bit of both. But it did take, Angela says, 7 years plus. I think I only did ergonomics for 5 solid years before I went and switched, due to life circumstances more than anything. Right. Yeah, we're moving. Pack your stuff. Yeah. It was a good thing. Yeah, it was a good thing. It worked out well. Yeah, you can never lose, in my mind, having a smattering of ergonomics, having a smattering of clinical assessment, exercise prescription, nutrition, because it all starts to beautifully come together. And then you just pull your skills off a shelf. Oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. And what I want to be able to do is learn more from Rebecca about how do we actually now beef up what we do with this knowledge translation, so that we make sure that we're accessing just the latest, greatest research to back up all of these skills, and feel really competent and confident that we are putting into practice what anyone else in any other healthcare profession would be utilizing at the top of their fields as well. And knowing that KINs are playing in the same sandbox. We have access to the same research. We're able to translate it the very same way. And it's the application, which is our craft. That's the fun part. So any
Yes,
questions at all about whatever, business, clinical practice?
I was gonna say, just thought, kind of going off your comment, Angela, it's so interesting to me that I think this has always been a conversation, but I think maybe now it's coming more to the forefront of our profession, because we've reached a point where we're like, well, we've done all these other things. Like, what do we have to do? What is our next thing that we have to do as a collective? And we're kind of like, well, we need to be able to be confident that we're speaking the same language as other people. We need to be confident that we're going to be, having like this same level as the other professions, even though we weren't maybe necessarily taught as a profession, because our education is very divergent. And it's only recently where I would say the universities really started to view the degree as a professional degree, or at least it could be a professional degree for some people if they chose to go that route. I wouldn't even say now that it's viewed as a professional degree at the academic level. But I think, this conversation about, or this recognition at least, that we need to speak the same language is really important. And moving the profession forward, like that's kind of, I think, the next thing that we have to do, and build on the blocks that are already there.
Yeah, I've been experimenting, taking a lot of continuing education courses with chiros, physios, massage therapists, and just sitting back and watching the conversations. They're not any different than the conversations we have. If you didn't know what their professional background was, I don't know that you'd be able to tell where they're coming from. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same clinical questions. There's no difference. And I was in a chronic pain course this past weekend, and listening to a second year chiropractic student ask great questions. And you realize the same questions that any of us would ask at the second year. So it's really reassuring. And I think that the more we can bring our professions together and educate together, and then understand where those core competencies and scopes of practice differences are, the better our clients are going to be, because we can make better referrals, and ultimately clients get better. And there's no need for lines in the sand. It's just, the more we know about each other, the better the clients are going to do. So that's
we
what
might
really
also
I'd like to see.
when you think about it that way, when you compare to physios and chiros, they do a lot of hands-on, and our hands-on is teaching clients how to do things themselves. A lot of it, right? We do a little bit of
Very
stretching, you might do a little bit of facilitated stuff, but we are teaching clients to self-care, to self-improve with the exercises, with either chronic pain and how to deal with that, with modifying their postures or whatever it is for work, with giving them nutritional perhaps advice on what to eat. So we're giving them resources and coaching for them to heal themselves and not rely on a physio to put hands on them, and a chiro to crack their back, like to make those adjustments, or massage to give a passive treatment. Those are all three of those offer very passive treatments. Some offer some, don't get me wrong, there's physios out there, and I know there's a lot of people trying to push it that way, that, people that are taking the chronic pain courses, they're learning that both sides of the coin, I guess, like learning both passive and active treatments. But I think that's one big piece that we bring as KINs to the plate, is we teach them how to do things actively on their own, and that reinforces the treatment way better in their own brain and on their own, like how to do it themselves. It's much more long-term improvements for them, unless they rely on you to tell them they have to do their exercises that day, or right, that
It's me
accountability
again.
piece. right? So there's still
I
that
don't
accountability
see
piece,
you
which
reporting
goes into
today. That's right.
right? But
Yeah.
I think that piece is more valuable in the long term than, not that massage and physio and chiro don't have a good piece to play, but I don't think that we always have to have that passive treatment.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's a really interesting point that for us, passive's not really on the table. We might do some protective taping or some proprioceptive taping. We might do some facilitated stretching. We might do some postural awareness. But I think when we think about it, we really are helping people feel better in their own bodies by learning about their bodies. Can you feel this? Can you copy me? How does that feel? Let me adjust your chair. Let me try this particular exercise. Breathe this way as you do it. How does that feel? Eat this way and let me know after a few days how you're feeling. A lot of feedback. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. What are some of the struggles you've had, Deanna, in your career that you can think of, whether it's with another healthcare pro or in your own practice? Things I wish I
like a bit of all that
knew.
working collaborative. Yeah. I think I learned it so haphazardly along the way that I just kept taking little courses and learning bits and pieces that it was fine. I kind of found it hard to pull all together until maybe a couple last year, the year before. That whole, because we have so many different tools in our toolbox. But now, and then working with people that may not think along the same side, along the same wavelength as you. So if you end up working with, in a clinic with somebody that only does passive, or you end up working and seeing other clients that, that kind of, if it goes against your moral compass or just changes how you feel when you're working, that makes it hard too. So you want to make sure you align yourself with people that either grow along with you, are willing to learn along with you. And if they're not, then when you outgrow what you're learning, move on and find something that works for you. Because everyone's going to pick a different path and a learning path too, right? With all the amount of information that's out there now and the amount of continuing education courses available, they bombard your email. As soon as you like something, you get them every other day, every hour, right?
Yeah.
So picking what you want to do, what your path is for now, it can change later. As it can change, right? But pick something now that you want to learn about, stick to it for a little bit, learn it a little bit, practice a little bit, then pick something else. And then and try to collaborate. I mean, we have so many physios in town, but only 2 or 3 of them are willing to really collaborate and share patients and share ideas. And yeah, a lot of them are still business at they're online, but others still are okay passing off. You specialize in this, you take them. I especially, I'm good at this, I'll take them or whatever.
Because ultimately, word of mouth referrals are so important. So the faster that client gets back to work or life, the more they're apt to tell all their friends. So that's what I found always worked better than paid advertising, was just word of mouth. I'm looking for a few clients. Would you mind asking around, or would you know of anybody? And then you get 4 or 5 phone calls. Oh, so-and-so told me to call. I'm like, great, thank you. So it works.
That's probably, I was going to say, that'd be where I struggled, is I have yet to be able to ask that question. Or ask for reviews, or it's just hard.
Right.
That's just, so it's interesting if you can ask for the referrals or ask for anything, go for it.
Yeah. The way I phrase it is I've got a couple hours on my schedule that I'd like to fill. Would you know of anyone who could use my help with, weight loss, better eating habits, help with sleep or anxiety management? You just list off a few different things that maybe the client hadn't really thought of. Thought, oh yeah, we've spoken about that. Sure. So that's the way I phrase it, is I've got some room, I've got some space I'm looking to fill. And That doesn't mean you need to take everyone that comes your way. I've learned. Need to learn what's a good fit for you.
And pass
Or
the
you
others off
refer.
to people. Yeah, and refer to people that will collaborate with you, right?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Mhm.
I get for sure. It's and research wise, it's I always find I want to read every article out there, but I try
I
to wait
wish.
till someone I try to wait till someone tweets it on Twitter that this is a good article. Give me the summary.
That's what we're hoping to do is look through what we have on offer to say, how can we distill it so that if you're interested in this area, then you'll know that we've investigated that pretty thoroughly for you. And then also through just what we do, just talking about, here are the research articles that are really amazingly surprising in a particular area, and we really think we want to bring this to your attention. Or great, this just confirms how we know KIN's practice very well. So you're good, you know, if you just continue along this path. Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast by an American money mindset coach, and he mentions that when you look at what you invest and what you spend your money on, he was saying 10% goes into your savings account off the top. And then he was talking about 10% goes into a continuing education fund, your own personal fund. Hopefully the math works here. 25% is going to be your vehicle and related expenses. And then it was, I'm going to say, I hope someone's doing the math, 30% was home expenses. So we're at 50, 60, 70, right? And then the other 30 to 40%, depending upon some flexibility there, is going to be just living expenses to pay for your cell phone and your food and other related things. And so I was listening to an audiobook this morning, and sure enough, 5%, 10% invested back into your own growth. And so then I had to think, well, what have I budgeted for my continuing education this year? And then I realized it's May and I've already blown through my budget. So there's also that. So that's also really interesting, is to figure out, like Deanna said, where do you want to focus your learning and go down that path for a little while, and then look to the groups that can provide you with, we've distilled the research for you, we are experts in this area, so that you can become confident that you are building your own practice by getting great direction for continuing your education. So that's helpful. So question for you, Rebecca, for continuing education as a researcher, how does that work? Would you be going to, or eventually going to, I guess, academic conferences, or how does that look on the academic side? What would you do?
Yeah, it's really about academic conferences, I would say, as a major option. There's kind of built in, like if I end up staying in academia, within the kind of cycle, I guess, a career progression of a professor, there's like sabbatical years, and that's how like the continuing education like works in like big chunks. So there's that built in, but all that to say, like, it's really, I think when your job as a researcher is to keep up with the research in your field, like that's even more, I'm going to say this and like you can feel free to disagree, but I'm going to say even a researcher's job to keep up with their research in the field is maybe even more of an importance than a clinician keeping up in the field, when your job is literally to move the field forward, right? So
Yeah.
So if I stay in academia, my job is literally to continually educate myself. So there are
That's amazing.
Yeah, which it is kind of it's amazing, but also destabilizing at the same time, right? Like
Do you
highly,
find it like overwhelming?
I mean, sometimes when you enter a new area, you're like, like, why did I do this to myself? And I'm sure you guys have all experienced that with different things, but that's, I think, kind of what my life is going to be constantly if I stay on that. So yeah, it's really academic conferences, I guess, are like the forefront kind of thing, or you have you just have to read a lot of articles. Honestly,
Yeah,
a lot of articles.
right.
So it's it's good. You sometimes have for kind of like very researcher skills, you can do workshops and things, but it's less common. People are, I think, a bit more like, just figure it out, like self-direct yourself, or like find someone to kind of be your mentor and be like, here, like read these things because these are good. And then you kind of sift through them and you go back to them and say, I don't know what's going on here, right? Like that kind of, I think. So anyway, it's a different mentality a little bit, I guess.
Right. Emma and Catherine, are you bumping into any particular areas that you're finding super interesting and or super overwhelming as you think about your careers?
Well, since I haven't even written my test yet,
That's
it's kind of
okay.
overwhelming because it's like there's a lot to learn, and the more that it gets pushed off, like if it's not written until September or if it's not later than that, then it's kind of just like, okay, I'm just gonna be studying forever. That's what it feels like. Um,
I hate to
but
tell you, but that's the rest of your
no,
career.
I know. And I know that. And I think there's going to be parts where I'm going to enjoy it, and there's going to be parts that I'm not going to bother doing because I don't want to do them. But aquatic therapy, something that I really want to try.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So when I was listening to the Tori, and she was
Yeah, that's right. Victoria
Uh,
Galetta, she's doing that.
yeah. So I talked to her a little bit about it. I'm interested. Just right now, there's also, I'm not sure how even to get in to like a pool during the pandemic
Right.
if they're not allowing people to do that, or if it's like a certain, clinicians with certain patients that can only do those. Can't really like shadow someone necessarily.
Mhm. As soon as the pools open back up, you could definitely shadow, or backyard pools could be an option. Maybe talking to Tori about shadowing her. She's working in backyard pools.
Right.
That might be something that would be really helpful. The lovely thing about aquatic therapy as a kin is you don't need additional certifications. It is quite covered under your scope of practice and your core competencies. So you could do it without any formal training post-kin degree, but you may just need guidance. What works best, and how might I manage these various injuries when I'm in the water with someone? So I'm sure Victoria could tell you lots of different options. We talked about some of the different kinds of training available and equipment that you might need to collect over time. You don't need a lot, which is good. It's fun. It's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
looks fun.
So, yeah, it's fun. And you get to, I mean, I was working in private clients' backyard pools, and you're just hopping in and out of their backyard pools all day, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I actually also did aquatic therapy. That was like one of the major clinical areas, or I guess therapies, that I worked in prior to just really shifting to education. But I agree, it was really fun. If you like the water and it's like something you're really comfortable with, especially for me, it was like an easy fit because I was a competitive swimmer growing up, and then I taught swimming lessons during high school. Like I did like the lifeguarding, whatever stuff on the side. So it was like a very easy transition. And I worked with did adult classes then too. So it's a very easy transition to kind of like apply my skills that way. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's a really what's the word I'm looking for? Underused,
Underserved.
underserved. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's an interesting specialty. And as you can see, Victoria is the only one that all of us can say that's her brand, that's her client focus, but all of us know she's the person to go to, right? If you wanted additional information. So it'd be really great to say Emma Donnelly, she's the other person that's specializing in aquatic therapy. Victoria is in this area, and Emma's in this area. So it makes it easy for us to refer people to both of you as well. If we come across clients that really would benefit from being in that weightless environment, hip and knee replacements and arthritic conditions and all of those conditions that respond really well to being weightless is really quite good. So there you go. I think it's a good niche. It's a smart niche to be in. How about you, Catherine? Are you bumping into anything at the clinic that's really interesting you?
I've had the chance to work with a man in a wheelchair with kind of some dystonia and muscle issues, and I think kind of like that rehab setting is really cool, and the different issues like people can come in with, and like the barriers to their progress and things like that. But actually, my question for you guys kind of was, I guess, mostly directed at Angela and Deanna. Angela, you put out a blog post about like when you graduate, you're not really ready to practice, especially since kin degrees aren't really considered, like professional degrees or anything like that. But Angela, I know you basically started practicing like right out of your kin degree and starting up a business. Like, how did you kind of overcome that? Like right out of your degree?
I didn't know any better. It's the best time to do everything.
Okay.
It was, I had worked in a couple of clinics in co-op and saw how they were running because I was the person who was assisting the athletic therapist. It was really athletic therapists that taught me. There were 3 athletic therapists, 1 physio, 1 sports med physician, someone who did all the business side. So she was doing all the invoicing, all the paychecks and everything else, and then 1 front desk person. So I spent time shadowing each person and realized what it was that helped everything run smoothly. And I wasn't going to have access to OHIP, so I didn't have to learn the OHIP billing system and submission system. But I needed to learn a little bit about how were automobile accidents treated and what happened with WSIB clients and other work-related clients. And we didn't have, corporate wellness wasn't really a thing when I was starting out, so I didn't really have to worry about that. But I mentioned probably in my story from time to time that I ended up in Bancroft in a basement physiotherapy room beside the morgue, and there were 6 treatment tables, 1 physio, and I realized I know exactly what she's doing. I know that she's trying to do ultrasound on 1 person, another person was trying to put their own EMG machine on their quad, someone else was trying to figure out their bike seat, and I thought, this feels comfortable. I feel like I can make a difference here. But not being a regulated healthcare professional, Quinty Health Corporation couldn't hire a non-regulated kin. So I just marched up to the doctor's office and said, you have a waiting list of 3 months. And what are you going to do about it? Because it will never change. In fact, I think it might get worse if you don't bring me in somehow. Here's what I can do. Basically, would you supervise me? Are you comfortable enough? And you can supervise me however you like. And he said, how about an office downstairs? I'll keep an eye on you. And so I said, you're on. And he goes, $400 a month for 400 square feet, no windows behind an elevator shaft. And I said, great. And yeah, my first treatment table was milk crates and a bed sheet and an exercise mat. I went out behind the IGA, the local IGA, and scrubbed those milk crates and brought them back into my office. I thought, bing, treatment table, that's perfect. And they donated a filing cabinet, a desk and a desk chair. And I bought a fitness step and I bought some dumbbells. That's all I had. Oh, sorry, I bought 2 exercise mats. So I had one for the treatment table underneath the sheet, brought a pillow from home. I had a few white towels at home, brought those in. And then the second exercise mat I used to use on the floor with my clients. And that's how it started. And then the doctor said, we want to buy you an all-in-one piece of gym equipment. Can you take a look at these pictures? This is kind of our budget. They had a $5,000 budget. Choose one of these all-in-ones. And I said, well, this has the most carryover to a rehab clinical practice. And they're like, great. So they purchased that for me, and that was their investment in the business. And we just grew over time. I figured out I needed a monthly membership for ongoing predictable revenue. So we brought gym members in, and I discovered that at the time, auto accidents were paying $120 an hour. So how many people with car accidents could I get into the clinic? I went to all the family docs. And I said, I want all of your work. I said, I want all of your motor vehicle accidents, please. And I want all of your corporate wellness cases. WSIB, they were $12 a session. I don't think the treatment costs have changed in 30 years. So I didn't want to work with WSIB clients. They didn't pay us enough money to bring them in as clients. So yeah, it took me 2 years to buy a house. It's pretty good. All right, I was able to bank a lot. It wasn't too bad. And then I was able to renovate the clinic twice. So we had a nice clinical space and a good sized gym space. And then we just had themed nights for different people to come in. So we had a high school night and we had a doctor's night where all the dentists and doctors could come in. We had a kids night. That was a lot of fun. You had to be 10 or under to come in. So that was good. We taught fitness classes. I rented a local church hall and taught fitness classes. So I just gradually figured out, how do I increase my cash flow? So I did aquatic therapy at the local hotel. The local motel had a pool. So I just tried to figure out, what are all the different pieces I can plug into the business? And the docs were like, I just kept going to them every month, and I would give them 1-page reviews of all of their patients that they referred to me. And I just said, here's how your patients are doing. And they're like, great. Then they were like, I haven't received your review. I'm like, it's the first of the month. Like, I haven't received your review yet. So they got used to getting those reports. And then that's how I advertised the business, was every doc was getting. And then they heard about it from each other. They're like, I don't get anything from her. Well, how many people have you referred? Well, none. We'll get on that. So it kind of organically grew. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I did that for about 5 years. Yeah. And then my mate wasn't able to find work, so we had to move, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would still be doing that probably today. The same place. Now I just visit it. Yeah.
Did you like just kind of hand that off to someone else, or just totally kind of shut it down?
It was a little bit of both, because there was a lot of different pieces to it by that time. I had hired all the kinesiologists I could find in the town. One was a teacher, one was an OPP officer, one was a teacher at the local Fleming College, had kind of an outpost there. So I had 3 people with kin degrees that were working with me. 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. And then I trained fitness instructors. So they went to CanFit Pro. I worked with them, and then they went to CanFit Pro, and then they did their practical hours by teaching classes, and then they got their certifications. And one became, back in the day, CSTF certified, so very, very early CSEP certification. So she did personal training, fitness testing, and fitness instruction, and she didn't have a kin degree, but she was fabulous. And so when I dissolved the clinical business, all the fitness classes went under her direction. She took them over. The clinic was moved to, or the fitness center was moved to a local community center, and they brought all the equipment over there and all of our protocols for exercise design. And then the clinic, a new physiotherapist moved to the area. So then I referred my clients to her. She had a physiotherapy clinic she converted her garage and just took the garage door off, put glass doors, a glass front there. And so she converted the inside of her garage to a physio center. So it kind of cleaved off in little pieces. And that's how it went. Yeah, so there was a bit of money from the equipment sales and a bit of money for kind of respecting that I was handing everyone kind of a done for you business. Yeah. So it was all right.
Pretty crazy. It's a lot of hard work.
That's
crazy.
It was a lot of hard work. I brought a sack of towels home every night to wash. And then I used to watch breakfast television in the morning. I used to open the clinic at 7 in the morning. The gym members would come and exercise, and I'd fold the towels and watch the Toronto traffic reports. And used to say, "Oh, I saw a deer on the way to work this morning," or "That moose is still hanging around, isn't it?" "Yep, I saw it too," you know. And I'd come to work with my mountain bike on the back of my car, and then after work just hit the trails because it was right outside of the medical center, and then up I went. So it was fun. Go home like Deanna for a swim at the end of the workday. So it's very, very different lifestyle. It was excellent for cutting my teeth, and I just knew enough, I think, to be brave enough to do it. But anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. I didn't have any special skills at all. You just learn as you go. So yeah, it was fun. And now I do what I do because I don't have the overhead. So I don't have to worry about paying rent. There's no equipment leases. Not paying any, I am paying consultants now, but I used to have payroll. So I used to actually have employees, full and part-time employees. So completing all of that bookkeeping was a thing. Didn't have computers that did bookkeeping the way they do now. But yeah, if it's something you're interested in doing, go for it. Absolutely go for it. And you become, like Deanna is, just an excellent networker. You just talk to all kinds of people all the time. So I think the challenge for us is finding people that are able to pay out of pocket, right? Or that have extended health care benefits that will pay. So I had a client call me on Friday. She saw my name on the Lumino Health listing for Sun Life, which is great because I said to them, I'm going to invest in your listings for 6 months. I have to make back my investment to continue with you. So with this one client, I would easily make back my investment over 6 months. I was like, great, I've been on that list for 2 weeks, so this is okay. But then she said, are your services covered? And I said, they may be, or they may not be. You'll have to phone your insurer. So she hasn't spoken with me today, so I'll phone her tomorrow. What did your insurer say? Or your employer say? So this may be news that I go back to Lumino Health with saying, can't stay on your profile because no one has kinesiology coverage. So not going to be able to make back my investment. So this will encourage them to make sure that they're presenting to employers, listen, would you consider adding kinesiology into your extended healthcare benefits package? Here's what a kinesiologist can do to help your employees. So they said, okay. So we'll see. But yeah, that's the biggest struggle I think we all have. Anyone else have it? Are you thinking of a startup, Catherine? Is this kind of in the back of your mind?
For down the road, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea, because I think that the other thing to consider is that you can own a clinic and hire other practitioners, right? You don't have to be a kin only clinic. You can hire physios, massage therapists, chiros, physicians, anyone you like. And there's lots of business models out there from lots of people who've done it. Friends of mine are Pilates teachers who have full therapeutic centers running alongside their Pilates classes in 2 centers in Toronto. They've got full rehab centers in each location. And then other friends of mine, husband and wife, own a chain of 3 different gyms, and they have medical clinics in each of their gyms. And I remember the hustle she was doing to try and find a physiatrist to join them, and she found one. So that gives her the revenue as a percentage of their practice to support their facility. So they don't have to rely on the personal training revenue to support the overhead. It's the bigger dollars that would come in more consistently with the healthcare pros billing their patients. So lots of models. Any other questions you might have for anybody here? It's going to be interesting to watch how the research squishes with the clinical practice, and then everyone kind of defining their niche in clinical practice. Because I think KINs, even though we can't specialize, technically we're not permitted to use that term, but we can have a focus, we can have a client niche. We don't officially have specializations yet in kinesiology like they do in physiotherapy. It's probably coming, but I think if you can define your practice, develop a niche, find a focus, it can be whatever you like. And as Deanna said, you can change it anytime. Try it for a few years, get your feet wet, see if you like it. If you don't, rebrand yourself, do something else. That's a fun part. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, blowing back past the 8 o'clock hour because I'm chatting so much. But thank you for the questions, Rebecca. Thank you for joining me and talking about research and how important it is to support clinical practice. Very important. And Deanna, your expertise is always welcome because your experiences are just so widespread.
And took a totally different path.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I used co-op to get the jobs at the beginning and learn from different people. So that was beneficial for me.
Yeah, I think
For sure.
co-op, volunteering, being an intern,
Chat.
shadowing. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, really, really helpful. And
have fun.
And Catherine, and pardon me?
And have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself. You adjust your lifestyle to your income, and it takes a little while to get off the, I'm not going to say off the bottom, to get a start. And I would say to you, give yourself a good 7 to 10 years to really develop into where you want to be. And yeah, just poke around and explore and just chat up anybody and everybody. to get the information that you need. There's no wrong turns. You're just exploring different spots. And before you know it, you're just going to find your groove, whether it's neuro rehab or aquatic therapy. And you'll find a really, really rewarding position. Well, thanks everybody. If you have any questions, send a note to any of us anytime. And we'll see you back next week.
Thanks.
Thank you for leading a
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good to see you. Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Bye. See ya.